a bunch of people sort of gutted the first floor of their house if there was flooding. And so there's a bunch of things just laying out in the streets all throughout Tampa and St. Petersburg. And I think up and down the coast, which all of that stuff now is going to be projectiles in the hurricane winds. And so I think that being thrown through windows and houses and everything is a big concern as well.
First of all, let's check in with Hurricane Milton and cross to Florida in the United States. Locals could be set for the state's most dangerous storm in a century. Nearly 6 million people have been told to leave their homes as the Category 4 storm Hurricane Milton makes landfall.
From 10 Tampa Bay, this is a weather impact alert.
Cat 3 and 4 winds and push seawater all the way up the bay, potentially pouring up to 15 feet of water right into the heart of downtown Tampa.
Now, if this amount of water catches you by surprise, it's too late to evacuate. Cars are floating around and floating away. There's large objects in here that could knock things down with a battering ram-like force.
Brooklyn Karasack has left her home in St. Petersburg on the west coast of Florida and is now in Vero Beach in the east, which is slightly safer. Good evening to you, Brooklyn.
Hello, how are you doing today?
Well, how are you? More to the point, you've fled your home, so you've safely packed up and headed to a slightly safer area in the east. Tell us what you're expecting back home and how you've prepared your home for this.
I have no idea what to expect. A storm like this hasn't hit Tampa in a very long time, and definitely no storms since I've lived there have been anywhere even close to this. So I am not sure what to expect. To prepare my house, I'm on the second floor, luckily, so I don't have to worry as much about flooding or anything like that. But I still took some precautions and got stuff up off the ground as much as I could in case the storm surge is high enough to get to the second floor. I unplugged and turned everything off in my apartment. So hopefully there any surges or anything like that don't have any impact. My windows are all pretty old, but I didn't do anything to board those up. I know a lot of my friends who have houses boarded up their windows and everything as well, which that is what I'm most worried about affecting my house, is stuff going through the windows or hitting them or anything like that.
Yeah, because some of that storm surge goes up to about 15 foot, right? But then some of the splash could still go through your windows or could hammer against your windows. That is a concern. I mean, it must be fairly scary anticipating all this, because ultimately you don't really know what you're going to be coming back home to.
Yeah, absolutely. And the storm surge, we don't know how high it will be, but also there was another hurricane that I think it was 150 miles off of the coast of Tampa, St. Pete, a week and a half ago.
So this is Helene, isn't it? Hurricane Helene.
Yes, Helene. And there was some major flooding from that. And so a bunch of people sort of gutted the first floor of their house if there was flooding. And so there's a bunch of things just laying out in the streets all throughout Tampa and St. Petersburg. And I think up and down the coast, which all of that stuff now is going to be projectiles in the hurricane winds. And so I think that being thrown through windows and houses and everything is a big concern as well. And I think even just that being in streets, going back, I don't know when it'll be a good idea to go back, because I think that stuff will just be thrown everywhere.
Mm. Are you insured for this? I just wonder.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, is it kind of hard? Is it sort of pricey to get that insurance?
Yeah, I don't recall exactly what I pay. But whenever I purchased my condo back in March, and it was a requirement for buying mine. And so I think a lot of people who own must have insurance, but I think renters insurance isn't quite as common.
Okay. And whereabouts are you now exactly? And can you stay there? Are you now ultimately somewhere safe as far as you know?
Yes. Yeah, now I'm in Vero Beach, which is on the opposite coast of where the hurricane is hitting. The storm will still roll through here. I'm expecting to lose power for hopefully just a day or two. I'm really not sure. It'll still hit here, but just be a category 1 once it gets here, as opposed to the category 4, I believe it is, whenever it makes landfall on the other coast.
Yeah, so it's expected, it's around 160 miles an hour at the moment. It's expected to reduce slightly in wind speed, but it's getting wider. We hear. I mean, so many Americans, particularly Floridians, are just glued to the Weather Channel at the moment. Has this sort of become a bit of an obsession for you to watch its every move, or would you rather just sit in kind of semi-ignorance and just try and concentrate on what's in front of you rather than what might be happening elsewhere?
It's a mix of both. I feel like every time I open my phone through social media, I'm just scrolling through so much content that is all about the hurricane. And it's great to stay informed, obviously, of what's going on around you. But at one point, every time I look at it, I'm like, okay, like I need to look at something else right now because it just gets to be too much.
You are known on social media, aren't you, for the clothing that you make?
Yes.
That's a big part of your life. It's probably a big part of your income. And like many people, you would have had to leave a lot of stuff behind. Have you had to leave all these beautiful clothes behind, Brooklyn?
Yes, I left most of my clothes behind. I did pack up my sewing machine, which is the most important part of it. But yeah, I left the majority of my clothes behind. So hopefully my roof stays strong and my closet is still there whenever I get back.
Look, thank you so much for joining us. Hugely appreciate it. And best of luck. Storm's due to hit, isn't it? Later, much later this evening, your time, and early morning our time here in the UK. Best of luck with it all. Brooklyn Karasack, thank you. Left her home in St. Petersburg on the west coast of Florida now. In the east, safe for now.